Saw dudes, Precious Scars got buffed at the start of the season. On top of the revive passive, it now grants restoration times 1 for 3 seconds to us and allies within 15 meters upon scoring a subclass matching weapon kill. This is a pretty nice buff and doubles down on the support identity of the exotic. Behemoth Titans got no buffs. Bungie hates us. The only buff being taken into consideration for today is the Glacier Grenade buff, where they reduced its base cooldown from 152 seconds to 121 seconds. Today's build will provide tons of crowd control and healing for fire teams. It's pretty fun and effective, assuming your team can make use of the effects you are providing. Let's get started. Let's go over the Battle Mercy game loop first. Start combat by dropping a rally barricade to create some cover and provide weapon bonuses. Kill enemies using Aegir Scepter to proc Precious Scars and provide healing for the entire team. When an orb of power spawns, try to pick it up without exposing yourself too much to gunfire. Use your grenade for ad clear. If possible, use the alt fire on Aegis when your super is full to dish out more damage. If a teammate goes down, try to revive them for the large overshield for your other teammate and the one that just spawned. Play as a team and rinse and repeat. Glacial Quake does decent damage for a super but is fairly clunky to use. Thankfully, we won't be using it all too much since Aegis will eat at our super energy. Rally Barricade provides cover for us and allies but also provides weapon bonuses to the entire team. Shiver Strike, unsurprisingly, is still used as a movement tool because of its abysmal damage and lack of buffs. We will be using Glacier Grenade today since it offers instant crowd control and a surprising amount of AoE shatter damage. The lowered cooldown allows us to spam this ability even more than before. Diamond Lance and Tectonic Harvest will be the aspects for today's build. Diamond Lances can be spawned by killing enemies with stasis damage, which can be thrown or slammed to freeze enemies. Tectonic Harvest allows us to create stasis shards upon breaking stasis crystals, which refund melee energy when they are picked up. For the Breaking Bad Fragments, I went with Whisper of Bonds, Chains, Fissures, Shards, and Torment. Bonds causes kills against frozen enemies to create an orb that grants 2.5% super energy. Chains grants a 40% damage resistance buff when standing near a frozen enemy or stasis crystal. Fissures causes shattering enemies or crystals to create an additional damage instance. Shards grants 500% increased base grenade regen rate after shattering a stasis crystal. Lastly, Whisper of Torment gives us chunks of grenade energy for every damage instance we receive. Let's go over the armor. Starting with Precious Scars, I had Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Font of Wisdom. I didn't masterwork the armor because I'm broke. With the gauntlets, I slotted Firepower, Font of Focus, and Bolstering Detonation. On the climbing vest, I ran Sniper Damage Resistance, Concussive Dampener, and a Variable Resistance mod. On the spike boots, I ran Recuperation and 2 copies of Stasis Weapon Surge. Lastly, the mark had Reaper, Time Dilation, and Bomber. The only 3 stats that matter with this build are Resilience, Discipline, and Intellect. Resilience will allow us to tank more hits and make the most out of restoration times 1. Discipline will lower our Glacier Grenade cooldown. Finally, Intellect will lower our super cooldown, which is useful for Aegir Scepter. Don't go above 70 Discipline or Intellect since we are using font mods. If you are enjoying the build so far, consider subscribing. It'll be much appreciated. Today's build only has 1 weapon loadout. I wanted to keep it brief and there aren't many options with the build vision that I had in mind. Weapon loadout 1 uses Aegir Scepter, the Ikelos SMG, and Cold Comfort. Aegir Scepter will be our primary damage dealer, and weapon to proc restoration from Precious Scars. We will still be able to do substantial damage without our alternate fire mode thanks to the 2 copies of Stasis Weapon Surge. With it active though, we will pretty much shred through anything in the game. It can stun overload champions and is easily capable of freezing and shattering unstoppable champions. Because kills create a stasis burst, we don't need to worry much about slowing oncoming adds. The Ikelos SMG is our utility weapon. I crafted mine with Extended Barrel, Seraph Rounds, Shoot to Loot, and Volt Shot. Shoot to Loot allows us to collect orbs and ammo from a distance, something that we will need to do because this build is not suited for prolonged fistfights. Volt Shot allows us to do some light ad clear with the weapon and applies Jolt to beefier targets. This can be useful for taking down mini bosses and stunning overload champions if other options are not available. Cold Comfort is our heavy weapon of choice. It aligns with our Harmonic Siphon mod, but also Precious Scars' perk. It's pretty much the stasis equivalent of Apex Predator. I'm using a roll with Quick Launch, Impact Casing, Envious Assassin, and Bait and Switch. If you are trying to nuke the entire field, you can swap out Bait and Switch for Bipod. It'll be a fun alternative. If you want a craftable option, try out Fire and Forget. You can always use Headstone and Kill Clip for the meme. That about does it for the Stasis builds this patch. I'm sorry if this build seems a little bit underwhelming, but it's the best that I could come up with. I'm very disappointed, however, by the lack of buffs, especially for Behemoth Titans. They could always use more fun options, but I think Bungie is saving that for a later time. It's super disappointing. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about the build. As always, thank you for watching, and happy farming.